Hello, folks. Thank you for joining us. My name is Joseph Wesley, and my guest today is.
Hi, I'm Tina Wolfe, and I am from North Carolina. I'm a small business coach, author, and industry disruptor.
Okay, fair enough. This is a live performance. For those who are not this is the first time you're visiting us. It's we want to thank you for that. If you are coming back, coming back to us, we want to thank you for that also. A little background purpose of this, for those who are seeing us for the first time. People can copy what you do, but they can't fake who you are. And so for business owners who are looking how to stand out in their business, I don't claim that I see dead people, but I will discover a unique value about yourself that gives you exclusivity and an advantage in your ideal market. And I call that your secret sauce. So the purpose of this session is to help someone discover, and then define an ingredient of their secret sauce. And I say ingredient, really, it's only 30 minutes, folks. But if you can get a nudge of this persona,
Mhm.
then they can better define their market or draw market to them as a customer. Hey, I like this person, she's my jam. That's the purpose of this dialogue. And I begin by asking, what's your favorite pastime? Because that goes to your passion, as opposed to tell me about yourself. Well, I'm on my third divorce. I've got 4 or 5 businesses I've bought and sold. I've got 8 grandkids. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But it's really not about
Yeah.
who you are different from anybody else. So I'm going to begin, and then toward the end of the program, we'll talk about Tina's business. And my goal, if I've done my job well, is to share with her and you guys what is it about her that gives a distinct value to her industry that grabs you versus anybody else claiming to do the same thing even better. So with that said, I'm going to, oh, one other thing I keep forgetting. I do take notes. So when I'm looking down, it's not because I'm nodding off, it's because I have a white sheet here and I put notes to myself, which I will refer back to as part of my dialogue in terms of her business side. So Tina, I'm going to ask you, what is your favorite pastime?
I thought about that question because I knew you were going to ask it, and I have to say, I love outdoors,
Mm-hmm.
and I think what it is about because I run, I hike, I just explore. I can even go and explore in a car.
Right.
That idea of it's a I have a curious spirit. And I think that's what it is that makes me love that so much, is when I run on trails, I try to find new trails where I haven't been before. Just being outside, being in nature is just very, rejuvenating for me. It helps me clear my mind. It helps me a lot of times we have things going on in our head, and it's just we can't seem to get a clear line going. Being outside and being in nature, running and hiking and things like that do that for me. So I love anything outdoors. I would love to travel, and that might be in my future now that my youngest is in college.
Mm-hmm.
So, but when the kids are at home, it's you're kind of home base for a while.
Fair enough. I
Yeah.
hear that. Now, were you traveling when you were a 3-year-old?
When I no, well, we did move around a lot. We
Right.
moved around a lot when I was younger, and maybe I found something positive in that something new is around the corner. Like, we're gonna have a new house. We're gonna have what does my bedroom look like? Or, you know, so it's interesting that you bring that up because I had not thought of it in that
Oh,
light. So I
excuse
like
me,
that.
folks. This is what I do. So, a
Right?
little bit of
It's like
humor in
revealing something.
that.
Yeah,
um, I'm making a note, so I'll be right with you. I'm a slow writer.
no problem. No problem.
Now, I understand sometimes children, there are parents who love to travel. They love to engage their young kids as part of the traveling for concept. However, at some point, the kids they develop their own friends, their own agendas, their own lifestyles. Who's
Mhm.
going to get the better side of the car sitting in the back seat? There are a lot of things that go on there. So, did you have those moments in your car travels when you were, or when you say travel, was it a matter of based on the job that the family had, their skills, they got moved to move to different environments? I'm not sure the cause of traveling.
So when I was young, it was my father's job that moved us from place to place. It was
Okay.
very we moved from different states. When my children were young, my husband had a steady job. We owned restaurants. Um, so we were able to kind of like take those group things. Now, when my son was little and I worked from home, a lot of what
Mhm.
I did is I would take him outside. I had the benefit of being able to take a break and stop the work and go, "Let's go on a hike."
Mhm.
So I kind of passed that adventurous spirit on to him, and the same with my daughter. This summer, she took
Excuse
a
me, can I interrupt?
yeah,
Okay, not talking about your daughter, your son in all respects. So I'm gonna
okay,
it gives a flow of who you are. But on
yeah,
the other hand, I really want to focus on who you are. Now, the concept of traveling, of exploring, you like to run. Now,
mhm,
when you run, is it a matter of there's some people who run and they talk about discipline because if I can
mhm,
do this in a health concept of it combined or not, I get the sense you do it more for the joy exploration side of it and the freedom of it. Am I
yeah.
wrong on that?
It's both.
Mm-hmm.
So I had periods of time when I first started running, we didn't have watches to track our time. I had no idea what my pace was. I didn't care. I just ran. Now, I spent over 7 years in competitive racing, in
Mm-hmm.
obstacle course racing and, long distance running. I did my first 50K with my son as a bucket list.
Oh,
And
nice.
that it almost killed me, but I did it. But it is the discipline. I learned a lot about myself and what I needed. I
Mm-hmm.
need that discipline in my life to accomplish the things that I want to do, whether it's personal or professional.
Right.
Um, and I kind of learned how to do it and what I needed individually as a person, what's gonna motivate me? What do I need to
Mm-hmm.
move forward? If I want something, what is it gonna take to get it there? So I learned it's there's a lot of thinking going on when you're on the trail. When you're doing, 30 something miles, there's a lot of thinking going on.
Well, that's interesting. Let me finish a note, and I'll be right back to you.
Yeah.
Running is not my forte by any stretch of the word. I'm always afraid I'll run to where I want to go to, then I'm too tired to come back. that's
That's when you call someone, "Come get me."
oh, okay. I never thought about
It's
that, folks.
possible.
So you just killed my whole sense of knowing all about this stuff, syndrome and dialogue. But I appreciate the input on that. And if when I listen to you, I get the sense that running, I'll focus on this at the moment.
Mhm.
It's you mentioned the discipline of it. You mentioned, in addition to that, though, the exploration side of it. Like, do you decide a running course, or do you get to, I guess I've run enough for the day and I turn back, unless you're in training, say, for an episode. But for the enjoyment side of it, do you set, or do you stick your finger to the air and see which way do we run today? How do you determine that?
So, part of when I was younger, part of what my mom and us, the 3 girls did for entertainment, because we didn't have a lot of money, we would take drives on Sunday, we would look at houses, we would see so that's part of, again, what piqued my interest in just, like, traveling, seeing new
Right.
things. I have this thing, and my husband jokes about it, it's like, I'll see, like, little trails opening up on the side of the road when we're driving, I'm like, "I wanna go there. Oh, I wonder
Hmm.
what's down there. Oh, well, let's come back," and I make note of them, and
Hmm.
especially in my county, like, when I'm driving around, I'm always looking for opportunities to go off-roading, right?
Right.
And I will find those, and I'll go back, and I will just, like, when I'm doing it for pleasure, or when I'm just doing it to unwind my mind, I've got something, I will just go where the path takes me. And sometimes it's like, yeah, if I've gone far and I'm tired, I will sit and rest
Okay.
until and enjoy my surroundings and come back. But I do it in a way that, it's like I make sure that I have the time on a weekend, on a Saturday when I'm not, having to do any other responsibilities. But that's
Okay.
that's part of it.
I hear that. So you say you watch the time. So there is a framework in which you want to accomplish whatever it may be for the moment.
Hmm.
But because you have other things you have to get done, and I get that concept very nicely. Now, when you make notation that I have to come back to this and check it out at some point. Oh, I'm going to change the question. Are you a
Mhm.
camera buff when you travel? Do you hike? I hear running, 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 but are you also a hiker when you go out there?
I have hiked with friends, and as I'm getting older, I'm integrating hiking more.
We'll say more mature.
Yeah, okay, more mature. But I do, and I'll take like snapshots with my phone camera,
Hmm.
but typically I don't do it for that.
Okay.
I want to be present and see it. There's a difference. I
Right.
can take a picture of it, but I can also, to me, being in the present moment and experiencing it with all of my senses is important.
Right.
Um, and it lasts for me.
I hear that. I hear that completely. Now, the concept of running, I understand some people when they run, I'm hearing it maybe differently from you. It's more like they're gonna, you talk about, it's almost a distraction. I'm hearing that you think
Mm,
about things, things come to mind, and as opposed to I'm going to make this happen, I'm going to focus. I'm focusing my breathing, and I'm
mm.
zoned in or zoned out. I don't know how that stuff works, but I'm asking you in a not very clear manner. What's your mindset when you're running, other than competitive? That I can kind of understand completely.
Mhm.
But do you have a mindset or whatever pops up for the moment?
So the more you run, and I've listened to podcasts and coaches and trainers, and that's part of when I was training for competitive racing. It is a mindset and it's a method of breathing that calms your whole system.
Mm-hmm.
And it also puts you in a state where you're able to really discipline your mind on thinking of what is important at the moment. You're not thinking of the pain of, oh, I'm tired or oh, my feet hurt. You're actually able to um, captivate your thoughts. The Bible
Right.
says, it's like capture your thoughts, right? Control your thought life. That's the training that it really gives me, in that I have the ability to train my thinking. It's like, wait, stop. What am I thinking about? I'm thinking about how miserable I am, how it's hot out here, there's
Mm-hmm.
mosquitoes. I'm like, nope, I have trained myself. No, we're not going to go there. We're going to go here.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to go on what we're doing for ourselves. We're going to go on what we're seeing, what we're doing for our body, what we're training our body to do.
Right.
So it is a definite mindset of, there's breathing, there's positioning, there's how is my physical body moving? Am I leaning more to one side? And all that is being acutely aware of yourself in a situation. It is being in the present moment, and we live a life that's so fast paced, we don't often get that opportunity.
Right. Now, talking about being aware of the moment, the metaphor that comes to mind, I'm thinking of how to word this. I was going to ask you, which I'm going to do anyway, when you're
Mm.
running non-competitive, do you ever, you say when you're driving in the car, oh, I see a trail that's of interest. Oh, I wonder what that is. Now, when you're running, do you get into that same syndrome that you have maybe a path you have in mind, you come to a fork in the road, you decide where you're going to go, but do you ever see anything that may stop you? You didn't expect, maybe you're running by a stream or a body of water, you see something happening, oh, look at that. Or do you, because you're running, you're going to run. How does that work for you?
So we have probably 75 or more percent of our county is a national park.
Okay.
So we obviously have plenty of opportunity to go out there and explore.
And you're from North Carolina, yes?
Yes, Western
Okay.
North Carolina.
Western North Carolina, okay.
So I was running on a trail one time, and I was, thank goodness I didn't have my dog with me at the time. And I was coming up the hill and I saw a bear, probably about a teenage age, not like a little bear, but not a big bear, but it was probably like come down the bank,
Right.
right? Cross the trail that I was going on and down into the thing. And I thought, the first thought, I like stopped in my
Mm,
tracks. I backed into the bank so I was like, I'm trying to make myself invisible.
fair.
And I thought, my first thought was, how how old is do bears get when their mamas like stops being around? Because I'm waiting for Mama Bear to
I
come down.
hear that. That's
I'm
the
like,
real
okay,
danger.
just my heart was like this, and I kind of backed down, and I just kind of made myself in with the plants right there, and I just waited. And I'm like, okay, do I go back or do I go forward? Do
Hmm.
I go back? And it's like, let me assess my situation. Am I truly in danger? And it's like, I am not going to let that bear take away my run,
Hmm.
my day. And I waited what I felt was, it's like mom bear's nowhere around. They would have come by now, and then off I went. But that was one thing that stopped me in my tracks.
Okay, I think I can understand that without any too much questioning behind it.
Yeah.
Interesting. Now, when I speak with my guests before we go into this pre-recorded studio live. I don't understand the terminology. I used to do live recordings, but now we do a pre-record to be released. I don't edit it, but I've been told you
Mm.
have to announce it's a pre-recorded live. Now, I don't understand the term pre-recorded live. We're not dead. We're both living. So it's like pre-recorded dead or
It
whatever. But
it sounds like an oxymoron, but it's
it,
actually not.
I get lost in the wording. I'll say that. But one of the
Yeah.
things I did say with Tina just before we got on, because we don't rehearse this, we don't script it, is that at some point I'm going to fill up my page that I'm writing on. It was a blank page when I started. I may have shown it to the audience. Now it's a full page, if you can see the writing or not. So it's time to stop asking questions. But before I do that, a commercial break. That what we're doing, we're posting this live, pre-recorded live, to LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and to Alignable. And there'll be a linked description of what each of us do, the value of what we perceive it to be, perhaps in your benefit. So the questions you might have, please look. And we ask that you leave comments along with that. We do audit the input given to you. Share this with everybody else out there. Even if it's not just a question. Maybe it's a critique. You disagree on something. We learn a lot from that.
Mhm.
And we do respond back in a diligent manner. Remember, please, to subscribe to my program, the Hot Seat Challenge, for discovering your secret sauce, and share it with other people also. But that's the commercial part of the program. We'll go back to the dialogue here. What I'm going to do now is ask you to share with me the path that got you into your business of what you're doing now.
Yeah. So, as I mentioned before, my husband and I, we owned restaurants. My education was in journalism,
Hmm.
writing, editing. That was my educational career.
Right.
And also had but worked my family was in the restaurant business. So that was very familiar and very natural for me. We owned restaurants in California and in Florida, running businesses, and I loved the front of the house. I loved dealing with the people. I
Hmm.
understood the mechanical part of it, but I loved being that with that putting that human factor in the business and the impact that we could make on our customers, when we really exceeded their expectations was always our mantra of our
Right.
businesses. It was like, look, I want them to, I want to anticipate what they need. I don't want them to have to ask for it. I'm going to be so attentive to them that I am going to see what they need before they even have to ask for it. Right?
Right.
They pick up their glass that's half full. I'm already there with the water pitcher filling it up. Right? That kind of service where, and I do have a servant heart, and that is part of what drew me to small businesses. When we moved to North Carolina, my husband kind of thought about retiring, and I thought, well, what am I going to do? We're going to sell the restaurant. Um, I went back to journalism for a while, but then I also started working with chambers of commerce
Hmm.
because being a small business owner myself for so long, I understood those struggles and time constraints and marketing and things like that because those are the things that I did for my business.
Hmm.
And then I spent 10 years with chambers of commerce, director, and then director of marketing and communications, working with businesses, teaching them about marketing, um, just helping them in training and things like that.
I hear that.
That's when
I'm going to interrupt a little bit here.
yeah.
That I'm going to do an observation. Most anybody I've met in the industry similar to what you've been involved in can make the same claim. They've had prior
Hmm.
experience, they've done their job, they've done their own business, uh, family owned, business owned, bought, whatever it may be. I'd like to share with the audience what I'm seeing, and I'm going to ask
Hmm.
for your feedback. And I'm going to start at the end and work my way backwards. And when you talk about the restaurant business, several things flash to my head for success anyway for the restaurant industry. It's a tough industry, by the way. A lot of
Hmm.
spoilage that you it's hard to juggle. And I think of three components: the food quality, the ambiance, and the service.
Hmm.
And I think, at least not being in the industry, these are the three core issues that come to my mind. And if you're going to be successful, the better you can do any of the three, preferably all of the three, great. But it comes to focus on what's going to grab at the audience, my guest who's coming in the door, my customer. And the I'm assuming the restaurant had a certain theme, certain aura, certain flavor, and people came to you versus the quick order place down the street
Hmm.
because of what you provided for them. So it's having an awareness of what you can do well. And the people who
Hmm.
come to you because they respect, appreciate the value of what you're doing
Hmm.
well. And quite frankly, isn't that true in any business? But most people don't quite understand that. I not what I know, but I've known people who I'm posting my stuff. Why aren't they buying from me?
Hmm.
You
Hmm.
maybe haven't made. You're the coach, and I forgot what these people do because I don't pre-rehearse. But I'm
Yeah.
probably preaching to the choir on this, but I'm also sharing it with the audience. So it's not so much what you do as I'm focused on. It's the history of how you got to where you are. Now, having done the restaurant side of it, I'm going to move further backwards. I'm not going to refer to my notes. And you talk about running, and I love when you talk about the bear episode. And what I know of running, certainly for serious runners, there is a focused concept. But you have things that may come up. This is true in business, that things will come up you don't expect to
Hmm.
happen. And you
Hmm.
made a deliberate decision to, one, be aware of risk factors, to
Hmm.
respond to that for the moment, make a judgment call, become analytical. Is this a little
Hmm.
cub type bear or mama's right behind tearing the world whole apart? Is it a random teenage bear that maybe not such a problem? But you make that judgment call. And some people might say, well, let me just turn around and go back. That's perhaps the safest way to do this. You
Hmm.
chose not the safest way. You had a goal that you wanted to go with. You made your judgment calls and you proceeded further. And since we're talking to each other now, I guess it was a good decision that you made.
I'm here.
You're right about that. So I'm going to go back a little bit further. Excuse me. About you talk about looking always for opportunities in your running that in a non-competitive cycle that you are aware of a young child even driving in the back seat with your parents, that you'll see things that may grab your interest for the moment, you'll catalog it, you'll come back to it. It sounds like
Hmm.
running the same thing. You may a minute have a trail, but you're not
Hmm.
necessarily going to stop for 20 minutes and soak in the sun at the waterfront, if I'm hearing you correctly, because your purpose at that moment is to run.
Hmm.
And there's a disciplined focus side of it, but there's also, and I still say non-competitive, there's an enjoyment side of it. There's a release side of it, but then there's a focus side of it. Now, am I far off on that? Because you're the runner, I'm not. But that's what I'm hearing from you.
You are correct. You know, in the moment when we're running or doing, or even let's say I'm tackling an issue for a business owner,
Hmm.
there is focus, concentration, and there is discipline in that moment, right? When we're trying to hash out what's really going on.
Right.
But the enjoyment is that we bring our full selves to the moment. We bring our full selves to the issue.
Hmm.
And that changes how we look at the issue in front of us,
Right.
right? My curious nature is what helps me see things that maybe a business owner doesn't see, right? I'm seeing things that everyone's different, right? You might see something, obviously, you saw that some things in the bear episode that are unique to the way your perception that I didn't see. So
Hmm.
I think that plays into it. And it's a combination of discipline and enjoyment. I've learned to enjoy discipline. We think that they're two different things, but a disciplined life is a very impactful, profitable life,
Mhm. I
right?
hear, yes, I hear that. And actually, she says this better than I says this. Not the best English, but it's a good flow. I was going to say earlier, you talk about running, traveling, and it's really the vehicle of how you move from point A to point B in itself is perhaps irrelevant. But the concept being is that many people will look at the effort of, oh, I got to get up and I got to run today, but it's important for my body. It makes me a healthier person. Or where a young kid might say, maybe not, I say young kid, that's redundant. I don't know if there are old kids out there, but a child, I get lost in words, folks, but might say, oh, I don't want to do it today. I got to sit next to my cousin, my brother, my uncle. I can't get the best out of the car, whatever it may be. But as I hear you talk, and the bear episode, I think, consolidates everything that you look at. Everything has a challenge. Everything has
Mhm,
unexpected nature. And you'll look at it as a learning curve. As you say,
mhm,
adds to the excitement of it. The unknown may
mhm.
frighten people, but life is that's what it's all about. And so
Yeah, absolutely.
if I'm going to move from point A to point B, there's a commitment to myself based on perceived value of why I'm doing it. So what I'm
Mhm,
hearing as I hear you talk is as a coach, and you say creative business solutions. I don't normally, my bias, I have several of them, but one being I think coaches are mechanically engineers. This is the thing you do to get this result. And so
mhm,
when I see coach of any type, football, baseball, business, and
mhm,
then I say creative business solutions, then that is almost a misnomer for me. But
mm,
combined in the same block of space, but I'm hearing from you that you're not one to, I'll say, simply only just say to somebody, here are the steps to be successful. I get the
mhm,
impression you will actually look at your audience. You probably will approach your client in the same manner you might approach your running. That
mhm,
it's an exploratory processing. There's a determination of where they are at the moment, maybe
mhm.
why they are at the moment, and bring it to their awareness as not only a coach but also a motivator. I think a coach being a disciplinarian, that's my bias. You'll correct me on the term you have.
Holding people accountable, yeah.
Fair enough, holding people accountable, but I think you instill a sense of adventure to it, and that is a catalyst. Am I wrong on that?
You're absolutely right. One of the reasons I started Creative Business Solutions was, real quick, I'm gonna share with you that when I was working for a magazine, I interviewed hundreds and hundreds of small business owners.
Hmm.
When I brought them back to the question of why, they told me the mechanical stuff, what their hours are, what the square footage is, what service do they provide. When I brought them back in the interview to why they started their business, you see the light come on behind their eyes.
Hmm.
You see the passion. I'm getting goosebumps right now because when you bring people back to the passion of why they started their business and pull out what is inside of them already that they're just not accessing because of the minutia of the busyness of running a small business,
Hmm.
that's where the magic happens. That's where the magic happens. When you can ignite somebody, edify them, bring them up and pull out what it is inside of them that can do. Yes, there I provide practical steps, practical systems. That's part of it. But what really fuels all of that is reigniting, reconnecting them with a passion for why they do what they do
I hear
and
that.
connecting it back to their personal life,
I hear that.
right?
Now, I'm going to nuance that with a afterthought that most any coach I've met could pretty much say what you've said also, with the same degree of passion and sincerity. But what I've discovered, you walk your talk. You weren't
Mm,
taught to say this in school.
mm,
You
mhm.
grew up this way. Your whole
Mm,
life has been this way. It's a
yeah.
legacy for you, which to me makes it far more meaningful. So I think for an audience who's looking for a coach, they're not quite, and I think people don't spend money for business. We never have a budget. It's because they're afraid they're
Yeah.
going to waste their money and they're going to spend it poorly. But for my druthers, you make your own choice, of course, in the audience. If you're looking for someone who has the skill, the determination to get past that bear in your life, your business
Mhm.
world, with a sense of, besides commitment, a sense of anticipation of exploration and fun, I think
Mhm.
Tina Wolfe is the go-to person uh, to look at. And again, I want to thank you, Tina. She closed this very nicely for me. I just have to give the final 30 seconds of this. Thank you for being a
You're
part of
great.
thank you for
Been a
being part of our
pleasure.
group audience. Remember to follow up, to leave comments, to subscribe, share this with your friends, family. Get back in touch with Tina if you have questions about the service she can provide for you. Or for those who would like to be guests on my Hot Seat Challenge, have questions about it, please connect with me also. Thank you very much, and we say goodbye.
I'm going to endorse the hot seat.
Okay, well, thank you.